I've bought a calendar, a big one. It goes on the wall with great big squares for writing on. I'd have preferred something from the National Gallery with some proper classic art to look at, but it's a third of the way through the year and they've sold out. So, the National Cactus Association it is. Child number 1 says, it's a goodbye for a prickly person. I pretended not to hear as I tied his trainers together tightly. March's cactus is the prickly pear. Now, I thought that that was something made up in the Jungle Book, but it turns out it is a thing, and it's nothing like a pear to look at. It's also called a tuna cactus. I have no idea why, because it looks nothing like a fish. Which reminds me, first thing on the new calendar, night out at Loch Fyne. The night out at Loch Fyne got cancelled. Of course, everything got cancelled. But the calendar has come in rather useful. It's now the school timetable because we are, of course, homeschooling. Well, officially we're homeschooling. What's really happening is that in between my Zoom meetings for work, I'm checking up on the academic progress of child number 1. He's the only 8-year-old I know who qualifies for Stroppy Teenager of the Year award. According to Mrs. Phillips, he is very advanced for his years. What this really means is that my maths knowledge is quite good for year 4, and my spelling is very advanced. Meanwhile, child number 2 is bored all the time. I've tried getting the older one to read to the younger one, 2 birds with 1 stone and all that, but in fairness, the hungry caterpillar on repeat isn't really doing it for either of them, or me. 2 personal achievements for me this month. I found the last packet of loo roll in the shop, and using that look, I negated the requirement to rugby tackle the woman about to add to the mountain of said commodity in her trolley. I also decided to start the Joe Wicks regime tomorrow. April's cactus is the Barbary fig. It has good healing properties, especially for digestion. Could come in useful after yet another Domino's pizza delivery. Joe Wicks is a bit of a non-starter. Although my neighbour Sue told me that he does an OAP's class at lunchtime. Bloody cheek. But Boris the Bold and his mates have permitted us an hour's daily exercise, so all is not lost. We tend to spend this hour in the park, with child number 1 terrorising small dogs and child number 2 screaming with fear at the sight of larger dogs, all of which is a bit odd as they live in perfect harmony with both a German Shepherd and a Jack Russell. Ant and Dec are somewhat bemused at how the small people have complete personality changes when they leave the house. I have come to the conclusion that both my children have inherited their father's tendency for the dramatic. Said dramatic husband, by the way, is in New York, where he's been working since February. He says he can't come home, but I suspect there are flights back if one looks hard enough. Looking around my office, usually it's the kitchen, but Needs must in a pandemic-induced working from home situation. I don't think I'd be trying too hard to return either, were I in his shoes. May's cactus is a golden barrel. Oh, it's reminded me of Rose's chocolates and quality street tins and chocolate Brazil nuts and dates and, oh, Christmas. They say this COVID thing will be over by then. Everyone seems to have taken up baking and gardening this month. It seemed like a nice idea and something that might entertain the children, and it ticks the boxes for food tech and biology on the timetable. So we made banana bread, a learning experience for all of us. Child number 1 learned that a hot oven can really burn your fingers. Child number 2 learned that throwing food on the floor means there's a good chance you'll slip over and hurt yourself. And I learned that Waitrose sell this stuff online. So I've cut out the middleman and I've got a delivery next week. Once I'd patched up the children and put the first aid kit away, off we went into the garden for seed planting. Courgettes, tomatoes, beans, lettuces, radishes, and, of course, sunflowers. I'm not sure how long they'll take to grow, but we're having fun checking on their progress every morning. On the plus side, we had a socially distanced VE Day street party. Turns out our neighbours are all very nice, despite the fact that they are all expert cooks and wonderful gardeners. They have spotless houses and they even find time to do online yoga classes each day in between the comprehensive homeschooling timetable. I came into my own when the wine ran out. Always a plentiful supply of the old gavy-de-gavy at mine. This month's cactus is an organ pipe. Its fruit apparently tastes like watermelon, but better. It really does look like a pipe organ, which, for someone who's just had her annual treat of an outing to the Royal Albert Hall cancelled, is a very sad sight indeed. Trevor in the strawberry van came to call and delivered salvation in the form of cleaning products, 2 litres of gin, a case of Prosecco and several jars of peanut butter, as that is all child number 2 will consume at the moment. Peanut butter, not gin and Prosecco. He also brought hazard-free cake and some fresh veg. Oh, the veg was especially welcome, as I have discovered that A, the seeds in the garden should have been planted in April, not June, and B, they take a long time to grow. We won't be digging for victory anytime soon in this house, but you never know. Autumn tomatoes could soon be all the rage. July's cactus is a hedgehog, which is rather cute and I think appropriate, as we're learning about nature in the garden. I've encouraged the terrible 2 to think more about wildlife than plants now, as it is very evident that none of us have green fingers. We're building a hedgehog house and feeding the birds every day. Hedgehog cacti are small and squat and need little tending. A bit like me. The hedgehogs haven't arrived yet. Child number 2 checks every day and is insisting on putting out cat food every night on the ground. with the bread that he also leaves out for the birds. I can't help but think that I should have insisted on building a bird table. We'd be less likely to attract unwanted rodents then. Good news is we are eating out to help out quite a lot. And it's school holidays, so we are no longer pretending to learn algebra at home. We've discovered some good online French classes for children though, and the bribe of a holiday at Disneyland Europe seems to be working. The eldest is now quiet for a good 20 minutes a day. August's cactus is the queen of the night. It's quite appropriate. It reminds me of my favourite opera, and it flowers beautifully at night time. As do I. In Indonesia, it's called Flower of Triumph. Also me. I'm paying for all those dinners out with my husband's credit card. It's the least he deserves for staying in a posh hotel for 4 months while I deal with the day-to-day crap at home. Yay! It's back to school for the first time since March. Although this does also mean that it's time to hunt the tie and time to label the uniform. I found out that it's quite a big deal when you can't find said uniform and you realise that he's left his school shoes at school and they are unlikely to be ever seen again. It's back to arguing over bedtime, wake-up time, homework time, and what to put in the lunchbox. Finally got word from husband that he can put off his return no longer and is expected imminently. No doubt he'll be feeling refreshed after his sabbatical from real life and will arrive bearing expensive gifts. I hope he's also prepared to join in the fun and games here and that he knows how to set a rat trap. September's cactus is the saguaro, the big one that we all know from those spaghetti westerns. In the 16th century, it was used for winemaking. It houses, feeds and nurtures several different species of bird and insect. It survives in a high-stress environment and its spines can cause severe injury to humans, being as sharp and almost as strong as steel needles. The plane lands at 8:30.
Hang on, Mr. Finch, just let me get a pen. Okay, go ahead.
Chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk? Okay, how many bottles?
As much as you can get. I love it.
Right, I'll put you down for 2 bottles. Now, what food can we get you? I see from the notes we haven't shopped for you for over a week.
Chocolate. Any sort. I'm a chocoholic, you see. Fruit and nuts, my favourite. As much as you can get.
That's not quite what I meant.
No.
What about some hot food? The local pub is doing some really delicious home-cooked meals that they deep freeze. You just have to put one in your oven.
I'm vegetarian.
Oh, no, not a problem. We've got lots of choices. I'll read them out to you and you just say what you want.
Okay.
Butternut squash risotto with fresh garden peas. Chickpea curry with tofu and rice. Baked rice with baked tomato.
I like curry. And chocolate milk, you did get that, didn't you? The chocolate milk.
Yes, Mr. Finch. Right. I'll put you down for 2 of the curry. And why don't I just choose a couple of the others to make a week's worth for you?
No, thanks. Just curry. 5 of those will be good. I like curry.
Okay, 5 curries it is. Anything else, Mr. Finch?
Honey. That one with the funny name. I think it's from New Zealand.
Manuka?
Yeah, that's it. It's good for my ulcers.
Your ulcers?
Yeah, I read you can put it on ulcers, bandage over, and they heal. 7 years I've had them. Have to go to the hospital twice a week. That was their fault in the first place. They use super glue to attach the bandages, bloody doctors. I take 2 buses. It's a real bugger.
I really don't think smearing honey on an open wound will help, Mr. Finch. And anyway, Manuka is not something we can provide from the food bank.
Oh, I know. I need it for me ulcers. And I stir it in my tea.
We are not the NHS, Mr. Finch. And it costs about £30 a jar.
I'm not paying for this, am I? I can't afford £30 for a jar of honey.
No, Mr. Finch. I'll put you down for a jar of clear honey from Tesco. What about some bread to go with it for breakfast?
Oh, no, thanks. Bread's not good for you. I have those Mexican things.
Mexican things? Tacos?
No,
Burritos?
no, they're small and triangular and a bit spicy.
Tortilla chips for breakfast?
That's it. 3 bags, please.
Okay. I've got 2 bottles of chocolate milk,
Yeah,
a bar of fruit and nut,
yeah.
5 chickpea curries, a jar of clear honey, and 3 bags of tortilla chips. We can deliver that to you on Tuesday? Are you sure there is nothing else we can get you, Mr. Finch?
Chocolate milk, as much as possible. Did you get that? You did write that down, didn't you? Chocolate milk.
It started with a kiss. A Judas kiss, perhaps. Except it did not. It started when one of our hominid family in the East ate a bat without any thought whatsoever. In this interconnected and complex world, that was the genesis of a chain of events. Or much like the flap of a butterfly's wings causing a proverbial hurricane. Well, that's what chaos theory pontificates at us. Good old chaos theory. The science of surprises. The collapse of order. By the way, don't confuse chaos with anarchy, the collapse of law. Too many treat chaos and anarchy as synonyms. They're not. I like law. I like its logical approach. I like the comfortable assurance it gives me, the umbrella of protection it grants against the excesses of the state or whatever despotic elites just happen to be governing us now. And the other thing I like about law is the economy given by the doctrine of precedent. A once-only decision that sets the rules, boundaries, and invincible barriers everyone must stick to. Everyone, from prince to pauper, from princess to prostitute. Even elites are supposed to stick within the boundaries. After all, the precedent at Nuremberg told us the Nuremberg defense, I was only doing what the boss told me, is not actually a defense. In fact, it barely passes muster as an excuse. Certainly, Boris's ex-boss, Big Dom, didn't think about excuses when he arranged socially distanced childcare, relocating to his holiday destination of choice. Suddenly, an unknown town became so infamous that a beer was named after it. So deliciously ironic that both the Dom and Brewdog Brewery are serial disruptors. Remembering the Nazis, as we often do when thinking of tyranny, Hans Littern comes to mind. Remember him? Well, perhaps not, but not as infamous as the Dom. But too clever by half for that bloke with a massive inferiority complex, a squeaky vocative and a dodgy tash. The ultimate disruptor, Corporal Hitler, didn't do well as a witness when forensically challenged by Hans. No, not at all. Dear Adolf really got the hump with him. Herr Lytton paid for it, of course, later. When Herr H became the maddest, baddest of all the mad, bad dogs. The hypothesis strikes me. Maybe Littern caused the war. Indirectly, admittedly. Supposing he had not upset Adolf, then maybe he would have grown to be a reasonable chap who could have done the real deal with that other reasonable chap, Neville Chamberlain. Just a thought. Mind you, back in March, most of us were reasonable. Then this sceptred isle turned itself inside out. Suddenly all that intrinsic reserve, conditioned through the DNA of generations, disappeared. The helixes untwisted, randomly and quickly. Suddenly we were fighting in the aisles of Tesco, Morrison's and Aldi over the last bag of pasta or loo roll. I mean, how many bags of pasta can you store underneath the bed? Well, no, you can't store any loo rolls there, and you wouldn't anyway. No good having to ferret underneath the bed when you got an attack of the runs. I don't know if they fought in Waitrose. I rarely go there, unless one of the posh Sunday supplements has a recipe demanding fermented yak's milk, or this month's fashionably obscure spice. And it went really nuts. People viewing neighbours as contagious as injected lab rats. When I went out for my daily exercise, the legal one, that is, I noticed that most people had adopted the COVID swerve, detouring well into the road to avoid me. Strangely, popping into Waitrose for some yak's milk, with my Aldi bag on proud display, I noticed something similar. Slowly, but insidiously, we not only foolishly accepted what the government told us, we embraced it. Then, In the spring of lockdown, no eyes narrowed into slits of defiance against the science. Dutifully we clapped and cheered to support the NHS, not the NHS of Nye Bevan, but the NHS of a special advisors focus group. Public education is priceless, folks. After that, we can't just insult you with a 1.31% pay rise, so we won't bother at all. Cheers. But we all suffered because those at the top were having lunch at the wheel. Don't they possess foresight? Must they always rely on hindsight? Soon, the Northamptonshire and Cambridgeshire cops were threatening to check shopping baskets. Oh, now, sir, can you really convince me that Easter eggs are an essential item? Surely, madam, you don't need 5 bottles of wine. Well, I bloody well do if I'm dealing with people like you. Not to be outdone, their Derbyshire chums dyed beautiful blue lakes black to stop open water swimmers. I mean, it's not as though they were in the nuddy and outraging public decency, was it? And on a roll they carried on, threatening to arrest, by drone, dog walkers socially distancing by 5 miles in the Peak District. That's how it starts. Hans knew that. He saw the danger of Adolf and his pals from the Bavarian beer halls. How they eroded freedom, grain by grain. First they came for the Easter egg buyers. I did nothing. Then they came for the dog walkers. And I did nothing. Finally, they came for the contrary bastards. But it was too late. Because by then, the law had been stepped around with the mother of all goose steps.